Have you ever felt that burning fire inside of you? That silent anger that grows when life doesn't move the way you thought it would? That feeling when your effort seems invisible, your dreams seem delayed, and your patience feels like it's being stretched to the edge. That, my friend, is frustration. And if you don't master it, it will master you. Frustration is not a small thing. It's the silent killer of purpose, the thief of peace, and the destroyer of direction. People don't lose because they are weak. They lose because they allow frustration to blur their vision. It's not the mountain that defeats you. It's the weight of frustration on your shoulders that makes you give up halfway. You see, frustration is the intersection between what you expect and what you experience. It's where your dreams collide with your current reality. And most people don't know how to handle that collision. They either explode, withdraw, or settle for less than what they were made for. Many destinies have died not because of failure, but because of frustration. A man can endure pain. A woman can survive hardship. But very few can carry the constant tension of waiting, the uncertainty of progress, the silence of unanswered effort. That's why frustration is so dangerous. Because it whispers to you, quit. You know what frustration does? It blinds you. It makes you forget how far you've come. It convinces you that your small progress means nothing. It distracts you from your purpose by magnifying your problems. It makes you trade your patience for panic and your vision for vengeance. Every great person has faced frustration. The period where nothing seems to work, where doors stay closed, where prayers sound like echoes. But the difference between those who rise and those who fall is this: some use frustration as fuel, others use it as a funeral. The truth is, frustration is a signal, not a sentence. It's life's way of asking, how much do you really want it? It's not meant to destroy you. It's meant to develop you. But if you don't interpret it correctly, it will turn your potential into poison. When you're frustrated, you're actually at a powerful point. A place where your emotions are begging for direction. And if you let emotion drive, you'll crash. But if you let purpose steer, you'll rise. Don't let frustration make you bitter. Let it make you better. Don't let it make you rush. Let it make you ready. Because behind every delay is a design. Behind every denial is direction. Frustration often means something greater is forming behind the scenes. Something that requires your patience, discipline, and emotional maturity. Remember, life doesn't break you by what happens to you. It breaks you by how you respond. Frustration is the test of character. And when you pass that test, you prove that you are qualified for the next level. Frustration is the gap between expectation and reality. It reveals your emotional discipline. This single truth can change the way you see your entire life. Think about it. Every time you get frustrated, it's not really the situation that's defeating you. It's the space between what you wanted and what you got. It's the disappointment of seeing your plans fall apart. Your efforts go unnoticed, and your dreams move slower than your desire. Frustration is born when life refuses to match your imagination. And in that gap, your true self is exposed. You see, anyone can smile when things go right. Anyone can stay calm when doors open easily. But it takes emotional strength to stay composed when nothing works, when everything seems delayed, when people misunderstand you, and when you feel like you're standing still while the world moves ahead. That's when your discipline is tested. Emotional discipline is not about suppressing your feelings. It's about mastering your response. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about refusing to let frustration dictate your actions. Imagine a man who plants a seed. He waters it every day, expecting it to sprout in a week. But after days of effort, there's still no sign of growth. The sun is hot, his patience is thinning, and he begins to wonder if the soil is dead. Frustration begins to whisper, maybe this was a waste of time. But what he doesn't see is that under the surface, the roots are forming. The seed is working silently. The soil is not denying him, it's preparing him. This is life. The moment between your effort and your result is where your discipline is tested. Frustration reveals how much control you have over your emotions. It shows whether you are ruled by impulse or guided by wisdom. Have you ever noticed how some people lose their composure at the smallest inconvenience? A delayed flight, a slow internet connection, a traffic jam, and suddenly they explode. Yet these moments are not big tragedies. They're mirrors showing how little control we truly have. If such small interruptions can steal your peace, how will you handle real storms? Life uses small frustrations to train your patience for greater ones. Think about the athlete who trains for years, waking up before dawn, enduring pain, repeating the same routine again and again. There are days his body aches, his mind rebels, and his spirit feels empty. Frustration visits him every morning whispering, "You're not improving fast enough." But he keeps going. He disciplines his emotions, and that discipline turns into greatness. Because success is not about strength or luck. It's about emotional control when your expectations collide with your struggles. In relationships, frustration exposes maturity more than love does. Love is easy when everything is smooth, but true maturity shows when your expectations are not met. Maybe your friend doesn't call back. Maybe your partner doesn't understand your silence. Frustration says they don't care. But discipline says, breathe, communicate, stay calm. Many relationships die not because of betrayal, but because people let frustration speak louder than understanding. It's not the disagreement that breaks the bond, it's the reaction. The workplace is another battlefield for emotional discipline. You give your best, but your boss doesn't notice. You work late, yet someone else gets promoted. That sinking feeling of unfairness grows inside you. You start to wonder if your efforts even matter. That's frustration at its peak. And here's the truth. This is the point where most people quit, not because they are incapable, but because they are emotionally weak. Your emotions will tell you to stop, to walk away, to find something easier. But if you can master your reaction, if you can keep working in silence, your discipline will speak louder than your frustration ever could. Life will always give you situations that test the gap between what you want and what you get. You'll expect loyalty and receive betrayal. You'll expect progress and meet delay. You'll expect peace and find chaos. But remember, it's not the situation that defines you. It's your reaction. Frustration is the universe asking you, can I trust you with more? And if you fail that test, you delay your own promotion. The truth is, frustration will visit you in every stage of life. It doesn't disappear as you grow. It just changes its form. When you're young, you're frustrated by limits. When you're older, you're frustrated by responsibilities. When you achieve success, you're frustrated by the pressure to maintain it. There is no escaping it. But there is mastering it. And mastery begins when you stop blaming the situation and start observing your reaction. When you feel frustration rising, pause. Don't react instantly. Ask yourself, what expectation is being challenged right now? Sometimes it's not the world that's unfair, it's your expectations that are unrealistic. Sometimes you want the reward without the process, the result without the repetition. Frustration is your signal that you need patience. It's life's way of saying, grow up emotionally before you move up physically. Remember the builder who lays the foundation of a skyscraper. People pass by and laugh because for months, all they see is a hole in the ground. Nothing beautiful, nothing visible, nothing worth admiring. But he keeps working because he knows the taller the building, the deeper the foundation must go. If he lets frustration make him stop digging, he'll never see the tower rise. This is the same with dreams. If you stop because you can't see progress, you'll destroy what was being built in silence. Frustration reveals the gap between who you are and who you are becoming. That tension, that discomfort is the stretching of your potential. It's painful because growth always comes with resistance. But only the disciplined mind can endure that stretch. When life delays you, it's not denying you, it's developing you. Every moment you stay calm when you could have complained, every time you stay focused when you could have quit, you are building invisible strength that will one day become visible success. So the next time frustration knocks on your door, don't run from it. Recognize it as a teacher. It's there to show you where your emotions need control, where your patience needs exercise, and where your expectations need adjustment. Frustration is not your enemy, it's your instructor in the art of discipline. Once you understand that, you stop reacting emotionally and start responding intelligently. That's the moment you move from ordinary to extraordinary. Many dreams die not from failure but from frustration. This truth is quiet, but it's powerful. Failure doesn't kill as many dreams as the slow poison of frustration does. Failure at least gives you a reason to try again, but frustration convinces you there's no point in trying at all. It whispers that maybe you were never good enough, maybe life is unfair, maybe the timing is wrong, maybe your effort means nothing. Frustration is more dangerous than failure because it kills you while you're still alive. Think about it. Failure is visible. When you fall, people see it. They might laugh, they might doubt you, but deep down, you still have a chance to rise again. Frustration is invisible. It builds quietly in the background. It shows up when you've worked hard and still see no results. It shows up when your sacrifices go unnoticed, when your patience is stretched thin, when your heart is tired but your dream keeps calling. And in that silent war between desire and delay, many people give up not because they failed, but because they got tired of waiting. Look around you. How many people once had passion, energy, and vision, but now walk through life with dull eyes and silent hearts? They didn't lose their talent, they lost their fire. Frustration drained them. They gave up on their purpose because it took too long to see the reward. They buried their dreams, not in a graveyard, but in their routines. They wake up, go to work, come home, and survive, but they no longer live. Frustration is the slow death of ambition. It comes when you expect progress but face delay, when you want clarity but meet confusion, when you give your best but life gives you silence. It's not that people stop dreaming because they fail. They stop because they can't handle the uncertainty between trying and succeeding. The middle ground destroys more dreams than the fall ever could. Imagine a young artist who paints day and night. He shares his work online, but no one notices. Months pass and the likes don't grow. The comments don't come. He starts to doubt his gift. Frustration tells him, maybe you're wasting your time. So he quits. Months later, someone discovers his old artwork and says, if only you had kept going. His dream didn't die because his art wasn't good enough. It died because he couldn't outlast frustration. Or think about the student who studies endlessly, hoping to get into her dream school. She sacrifices sleep, she gives up fun, she tries her best, but rejection comes. Frustration sits beside her, whispering, what's the point? And she stops believing in herself. She doesn't fail because she's not capable. She fails because frustration told her to stop trying. You see, frustration is clever. It doesn't push you to quit instantly. It drains your energy slowly. It replaces your excitement with exhaustion. It makes you lose interest in what once set your soul on fire. It convinces you that effort without reward is worthless. But what most people never realize is that the moment you feel the most frustrated is often the moment before the breakthrough. Life has a strange way of testing you before it blesses you. It wants to see if you can handle the silence before the sound, the waiting before the winning. Frustration is that test. It's the furnace that refines your patience and the fire that exposes your true strength. When people say, I'm done, what they really mean is, I can't carry the weight of waiting anymore. But those who push through frustration discover that the delay was never a denial. It was preparation. Take the example of an entrepreneur who starts a business. At first, he's full of excitement. He believes his idea will change lives. But months later, the customers are few, the bills are many, and the progress is slow. Frustration hits him hard. He begins to question his purpose, doubt his idea, and think of quitting. Many businesses die right there, not because they were bad ideas, but because the founder couldn't survive the frustration phase. Every vision has a frustration season. The winners are those who stay calm long enough to see it turn. The same happens in personal growth. Maybe you've been trying to change your habits, wake up early, get fit, save money, become disciplined, but you keep falling short. Frustration begins to build. You tell yourself, maybe this is just who I am, and the moment you say that, your growth dies. Frustration has won. Yet if you understood that progress is always slow before it's visible, you'd stay longer. Patience is the price of transformation, and frustration is the test of your commitment to change. Frustration doesn't just come to stop you, it comes to reveal you. It exposes your tolerance for discomfort. It asks, do you want the outcome or do you only want comfort? Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they choose comfort over consistency. And frustration always makes that choice harder. If you've ever tried to build something meaningful, you've met frustration. It visits writers who stare at blank pages, athletes who train without progress, parents who give their all but see no gratitude, and dreamers who sacrifice everything yet feel unseen. But here's the thing, frustration visits those who care deeply. It doesn't come to the lazy, it comes to the committed. If you're feeling it, it means you're doing something that matters. Frustration is not the end of your dream, it's the bridge to your next level. Every great person you admire has walked across that bridge. They cried, they doubted, they wanted to quit. But they didn't. They learned that frustration is proof that growth is happening beneath the surface. Even when nothing looks like it's changing, Something is shifting inside you. So when frustration tells you to stop, remember that it's lying. It's not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're close. The closer you get to your goal, the stronger frustration becomes, because that's when most people give up. And that's why many dreams don't die from failure. They die from frustration. They die when people surrender too soon, when they confuse delay with denial, when they choose comfort over calling, and when they forget that sometimes silence is just the sound of progress forming quietly in the background. Frustration blinds your vision and convinces you to quit too early. It's one of the most dangerous emotions because it disguises itself as logic. When you're frustrated, your mind begins to sound reasonable while leading you away from your purpose. You start to justify quitting. You tell yourself it's not worth it. It's too hard. It's taking too long. Maybe it's not meant for you. But that's not truth speaking. That's frustration clouding your sight. It takes your eyes off your goal and focuses them on your struggle. It turns your strength into doubt, your hope into hesitation, your determination into disappointment. Think about the last time you felt stuck. Maybe you were working hard on something, giving your best, but nothing seemed to move. Every door you knocked on stayed closed. You started to feel like your effort didn't matter. That's when frustration creeps in quietly. It whispers, "You've done enough," when in reality, you were just a few steps away from your breakthrough. It convinces you to stop digging when you're inches away from gold. There's a story about two miners. Both were digging for diamonds. One gave up after months of finding nothing. He left exhausted and angry. The second miner came the next day, picked up where the first one had stopped, and within 3 feet, found one of the largest diamond veins ever discovered. That's the danger of frustration. It doesn't tell you that you're close. It just tells you that you're tired. And most people mistake tiredness for failure. In daily life, frustration blinds you to progress that's happening slowly. It makes you ignore the small victories because you're obsessed with the big outcome. Imagine a student who's been studying for months to improve her grades. She's getting better, but not as fast as she expected. Frustration makes her believe she's not improving at all. She stops trying, unaware that she was just one exam away from turning everything around. Her vision got clouded by impatience. Frustration also has a way of making your problems look bigger than your purpose. When you're frustrated, you stop seeing opportunities. You only see obstacles. Your focus narrows until all you can think about is what's wrong. You forget why you started. You forget what you're capable of. You start seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance rather than a builder of destiny. That's how frustration wins. It doesn't need to destroy your dream. It just needs to distract you from it long enough for you to give up on your own. Have you ever noticed how frustration grows strongest right before something changes? It's like a test life gives you before the reward. You can't see what's coming, so you assume nothing is working. That's when people make their biggest mistakes. They quit too early, leave too soon, give up too fast. They trade the promise of their future for the comfort of quitting. They let temporary emotion cause permanent loss. Picture a runner in a marathon. He's exhausted, muscles burning, lungs screaming. He sees the next corner and thinks, "I can't do it anymore." What he doesn't know is that the finish line is just beyond that corner. If he stops now, he'll never realize how close he was. That's what frustration does. It puts fog in your mind so you can't see how near you are to victory. In relationships, frustration blinds you the same way. When you're hurt or misunderstood, your emotions start to distort your perception. Suddenly, one argument feels like the end. One silence feels like rejection. You stop seeing the love, the effort, the good moments. Frustration makes you focus only on what's missing. And so people walk away from something beautiful because they were blinded by a temporary storm. In your work, frustration can make you forget the purpose behind your effort. Maybe you've been trying to build a business, write a book, or change your habits. At first, you were full of energy and faith. Then things got slow. Nothing seemed to work. That's when your vision starts to fade. The fire inside begins to dim. You start comparing yourself to others who seem to be moving faster. Frustration whispers, "They're ahead because you're not good enough." But what you don't see is that your journey is different. Your pace is necessary, and your delay is shaping you for the weight of what you ask for. Frustration can make the most talented people walk away from their calling. It can make leaders abandon their vision because progress didn't happen fast enough. It can make dreamers turn into doubters and believers turn into cynics. It's not because they lack potential. It's because they lost sight. Frustration doesn't need to take your hands off the work. It only needs to take your eyes off the goal. Once you lose sight of where you're going, you'll stop moving altogether. In life, there will always be seasons where your progress is invisible. But invisible doesn't mean absent. The seed that's buried in the soil looks dead, but it's only growing roots. If it judged its progress by what's visible, it would think it failed. That's what we do. When results are hidden, we assume nothing is happening. We forget that real growth happens in silence, in struggle, in waiting. Frustration makes you blind to that hidden progress. It makes you dig up your seed before it has time to grow. Frustration will always attack your perspective first. It wants to shift your focus from what's possible to what's painful. Once it controls your focus, it controls your decisions. You begin to act based on feelings instead of faith. You choose escape over endurance, giving up over growing through. And every time you do, your dream dies a little more. That's why it's so important to guard your vision when you're frustrated. Don't make decisions when your emotions are loud. Step back, breathe, and remind yourself why you started. Because frustration is temporary, but regret lasts much longer. The pain of patience is lighter than the pain of quitting too soon. Many people fail not because they can't succeed, but because they stop before they see results. Frustration made them believe nothing was working, when in truth, everything was working beneath the surface. They were one more effort away, one more phone call away, one more try away. But frustration blurred their sight and they quit too early. Frustration doesn't destroy your dream overnight. It convinces you slowly that your dream is no longer worth fighting for. And that's how vision fades, not by accident, but by exhaustion. It's not the storm that destroys you, it's how you interpret the storm. Life will always bring storms, and no one escapes them. There will be moments when everything you've built starts shaking, when people you trusted walk away, when dreams collapse right before your eyes. The storm comes not to ask permission, but to test what you're made of. Yet the truth is, the storm itself isn't what breaks people. It's the story they tell themselves about it. Two people can go through the same pain. One comes out broken, the other comes out stronger. The difference is not in the storm, it's in their perspective. Imagine two farmers facing the same drought. One looks at the sky and curses the heavens, blaming everything and everyone for his misfortune. He gives up, stops working his field, and lets the ground die. The other looks at the same sky, feels the same heat, and says, "This is my chance to learn endurance." He digs deeper, finds new ways to water his crops, learns to survive in harsh seasons. Months later, rain finally comes. One man has nothing left. The other has prepared soil ready to bloom. The difference wasn't the storm, it was how they saw it. Life is full of people who are still stuck in storms that ended years ago because they never learned to interpret them correctly. They allowed pain to define them instead of refine them. They decided that one heartbreak meant love was unsafe, that one failure meant they weren't capable, that one rejection meant they weren't worthy. And so they built walls instead of wisdom. Storms don't destroy everyone, they just expose what you truly believe about yourself. Every storm has a voice, but it's your interpretation that gives it meaning. When the storm says, "You can't handle this," your mind has to decide whether to believe it or not. When the storm whispers, "You're alone," your heart has to answer back, "Maybe I am, but I'm still standing." Interpretation is everything. A storm doesn't have power until you give it permission to control your thoughts. Think about a young athlete who suffers a serious injury right before the championship. He could see it as the end of his dream. He could let bitterness take root, blaming fate, blaming luck, blaming life. Or he could see it as the universe forcing him to slow down, to rebuild, to come back stronger. Both interpretations are true possibilities, but only one leads to growth. Pain interpreted as purpose becomes power. Pain interpreted as punishment becomes prison. In your own life, you've faced storms, some visible, some silent. Maybe you've lost opportunities, people, confidence, or hope. And in those moments, you had a choice to either let the storm define your story or to let it develop your strength. When the winds blow, you can choose to fight them or to use them to rise higher, like an eagle that uses the storm to reach new heights. It's not the storm that decides your future. It's your decision to see meaning within the chaos. There are people who experience heartbreak and close their hearts forever. They say, I'll never trust again. There are others who experience the same heartbreak and say, I've learned what love should feel like. Both went through pain, but only one grew from it. Your life is shaped not by what happens to you, but by how you label what happens to you. Interpretation determines direction. The storm is a teacher disguised as trouble. But if you keep interpreting every storm as an attack, you'll never learn the lesson. Storms are part of growth. You can't build resilience in comfort. You can't discover courage in calm. The only way to develop strength is to face pressure. So when the storm comes, it's not asking, can I destroy you? It's asking, can I reveal you? Because storms uncover what calmness hides. Take a man who loses his job after years of service. Frustration and anger fill his heart. He feels betrayed, worthless, finished. That's his first interpretation. But later, when the dust settles, he realizes that losing that job forced him to chase his dream, to start his own business, to build something bigger than he ever imagined. Years later, he looks back and says, that storm saved me. What changed wasn't the event. It was the meaning he gave it. Interpretation is everything. When life hits you hard, you can either say, why me? Or, what is this teaching me? One mindset turns you into a victim. The other turns you into a student. Victims stay in storms longer than they should. Students use storms as classrooms to evolve. Frustration, rejection, loss. All these are storms. And your reaction decides whether they break you or build you. People who grow through storms have trained their minds to ask better questions. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? They ask, what am I supposed to learn here? That single shift in perspective changes pain into progress. When you interpret the storm as a sign that something greater is forming, you stop panicking and start preparing. Even in nature, storms have purpose. They clear away the dead branches, they refresh the soil, they bring balance to the ecosystem. If nature needs storms to stay alive, maybe we do too. But unlike trees and oceans, we can choose how to see it. If we see it as destruction, we'll fear it. If we see it as transformation, we'll embrace it. So many people spend their lives running from storms, trying to avoid struggle, trying to live only in calm seasons. But growth doesn't happen there. The calm may make you comfortable, but it doesn't make you strong. The storm, however, forces you to face yourself, to see what you truly believe, how deeply you trust, and how willing you are to keep moving when visibility is low. The mind is powerful. When it interprets pain as punishment, you become bitter. When it interprets pain as progress, you become better. The same rain that floods one house waters another field. The same fire that destroys one home forges another's strength. It's not the storm that decides your fate. It's your perspective that turns disaster into destiny. In the middle of chaos, your interpretation is your anchor. If you believe the storm will pass, you'll hold on. If you believe it's the end, you'll surrender. The wind doesn't decide your direction. You do. Storms are temporary, but the mindset you build through them lasts forever. The meaning you attach to the storm becomes the foundation for how you rise after it's gone. Frustration is a strange visitor in our lives, one we often try to avoid, but it always finds a way to sit beside us. It comes dressed in tension, in delays, in disappointments, in the moments when we try so hard and still fall short. But what if frustration isn't an enemy? What if it's a teacher wearing a disguise? Every time life frustrates you, it's trying to grow you, to stretch you, to teach you emotional maturity. You see, emotional maturity doesn't come from comfort. It comes from chaos. It's easy to smile when everything works your way, but the real test begins when nothing does. The moment your plans collapse, your patience is tested, your vision blurs. That's when life starts molding your character. Think about it. A child throws a tantrum when denied what he wants. But as we grow, life keeps denying us things so that we stop reacting like children and start responding like leaders. Frustration is life's way of maturing your emotions, so you no longer break at every no. You bend and rebuild. When the doors close, emotionally mature people don't scream. They knock again, and if it doesn't open, they build a new door. Look around you. The most composed people you know weren't born that way. They've been through storms that forced them to control their emotions. They learned the discipline of silence when anger tried to take over. They learned to breathe when life suffocated them. Frustration trained them. It was their invisible classroom. The lessons were hard: rejection, delay, misunderstanding. But each one shaped them into stronger, wiser individuals. When a student fails an exam, he can either give up or study harder. Frustration gives you that same choice. It whispers, will you let this break you, or will you learn from me? Most people don't understand that frustration is feedback. It's not life punishing you, it's life guiding you. When you get frustrated at a slow career, it's teaching you patience. When you get frustrated at people who don't see your worth, it's teaching you self-validation. When you get frustrated at failure, it's teaching you resilience. The difference between average and exceptional people is how they handle frustration. Average people let frustration control them. Exceptional people use frustration as fuel. Every inventor, every leader, every dreamer met frustration face to face. Think about Thomas Edison. After 1,000 failures, he didn't see frustration as defeat, but as data. He said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways that didn't work. That's emotional maturity, turning frustration into instruction. In daily life, it might look like this. You've been working hard, giving your best, but the promotion doesn't come. Your friend who does half the work gets ahead. It burns inside you. But in that moment, frustration is whispering. Can you still stay disciplined without validation? Can you still give excellence without applause? That's when growth begins. Emotional maturity is when you keep showing up even when life doesn't clap for you. Frustration is also the bridge between desire and discipline. Everyone desires success, peace, love, but frustration forces you to develop the discipline required to sustain them. When you're frustrated in your relationship, it's not the end. It's a call to communicate better. When you're frustrated in your goals, it's not a signal to quit. It's a sign to refine your strategy. Frustration teaches adaptability. It pushes you to think differently, to act wisely, to respond calmly. Life's most powerful people are not those who avoided frustration, but those who mastered it. They learned to turn the tension into transformation. They stopped asking, why me? And started asking, what is this teaching me? Because frustration is always teaching something. It teaches humility when pride rises. It teaches patience when hurry controls you. It teaches emotional control when anger tempts you. You can't stop frustration from coming, but you can decide how it will leave. Will it leave you bitter or better? Will it make you smaller or stronger? When you start viewing frustration as a teacher, tension becomes your classroom, and every challenge becomes a lesson in emotional control. The greatest leaders, thinkers, and creators learned to sit with frustration, to listen to its silence. They discovered that maturity isn't reacting to everything that hurts. It's understanding that some pains are just growing pains. Every time frustration knocks, it's saying, you're on the verge of growth. And if you endure it, if you stay calm, if you let it teach you, one day you'll look back and realize that the very tension that tried to break you actually built you. Frustration isn't here to destroy you. It's here to graduate you. It doesn't come to end your journey. It comes to elevate your understanding of it. Frustration is a fire that can either burn you down or forge you into something stronger. Most people run from it, but the wise ones know how to use that fire as fuel. When you hit a wall, when everything you try seems to fail, when people misunderstand your efforts or overlook your sacrifices, that's when frustration begins to build pressure inside you. Now you have two choices. You can let that pressure explode and destroy your focus, or you can redirect it, turn it into energy, and let it push you forward. Frustration is not your enemy. It's your unused energy trapped inside your disappointment. It's potential waiting for direction. When you learn to channel it, frustration becomes your greatest motivator. Think about the gym. When you lift weights, your muscles feel pain, tension, resistance. That's frustration at a physical level. But that same pain is what breaks and rebuilds the muscle, making it stronger. Life works the same way. Frustration is life's gym. It stretches you, challenges you, and forces you to grow. The people who stop when it hurts never grow beyond that point. But the ones who keep going despite the pain discover power they never knew they had. Most people waste their frustration on complaints. They talk about how unfair life is, how others got lucky, how things never go their way. But what if they took that same energy, that same fire, and invested it into action? Imagine what could happen if every complaint was turned into a plan. Frustration has built more dreams than comfort ever has. Comfort makes you stay where you are, but frustration pushes you to change, to improve, to break patterns that no longer serve you. Look at the story of people who started from nothing. The man who got rejected from job after job until he decided to create his own business. The woman who kept hearing no from every publisher until she wrote a book that touched millions. What drove them wasn't joy or luck. It was frustration. They got tired of waiting for permission, tired of being ignored, tired of losing. They turned that emotional pain into a hunger so fierce it made them unstoppable. Frustration became their fire. In everyday life, it happens to all of us. Maybe you've been giving your all at work, yet your boss doesn't notice. Maybe you've poured your heart into a relationship, yet it feels one-sided. Maybe you've been chasing your dream for years, but success still seems miles away. You start to feel angry, impatient, disheartened. That's frustration trying to tell you something. It's saying, you still care. If you were truly done, you wouldn't be frustrated. The fact that you feel it means there's still fuel left inside you. Don't waste it by sulking or quitting. Direct it. Use it as proof that you're alive, that your spirit still wants more. When you feel frustrated, take a step back and ask yourself, how can I use this energy? Maybe it's time to refine your strategy, upgrade your skills, or simply double your consistency. Frustration isn't a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that your old methods are no longer enough for the level you're reaching. It's your mind's way of saying, it's time to evolve. So instead of complaining about what's not working, get creative, get disciplined, get hungry again. There's something powerful that happens when you decide to use frustration as fuel. Suddenly, rejection doesn't feel final. It feels like redirection. Obstacles don't look like barriers. They look like blueprints. When life says, not yet, instead of shutting down, you start asking, what do I need to learn to make it happen? That's how frustration becomes your coach instead of your curse. It trains you to think deeper, to work harder, to stay sharper. Every great achiever has had nights of deep frustration, moments of anger, moments of doubt. But they didn't let those feelings destroy them. They let them drive them. When a door closed, they built another one. When people said they couldn't, they used that frustration to prove they could. The difference between winners and quitters is not that winners never feel frustrated. It's that they know how to transform it into momentum. Frustration is like a storm inside you. It can flood your thoughts and drown your peace if you let it. But if you build a windmill instead of a wall, you can use that same storm to generate power. Every time you feel fed up, tired, or stuck, remind yourself that frustration is energy looking for direction. Don't waste it on anger or pity. Channel it into progress. That's how ordinary people do extraordinary things. Frustration doesn't have to end your story. It can be the very thing that ignites it. Frustration exposes your dependence on timing rather than on process. It shows you how much you want things to happen when you want them, not when they're supposed to happen. Frustration is like a mirror. It reveals your obsession with the clock instead of your commitment to the journey. You see, people often lose faith not because their dream is impossible, but because it's not happening fast enough. We live in a world addicted to speed, where everyone wants instant success, instant validation, instant results. But real growth doesn't work that way. The seed doesn't become a tree overnight. The baby doesn't walk on the first day. The diamond doesn't shine before being cut. Everything great takes time, and frustration comes when your impatience clashes with life's process. Think about a farmer. He plants seeds in the ground, waters them daily, and waits for the harvest. He doesn't dig up the soil every morning to check if the seed is growing. He trusts the process even though nothing seems to be happening. But most people today, when they don't see progress right away, they panic. They start questioning themselves, doubting their worth, or abandoning their goals. Frustration starts whispering, maybe it's not working. But the truth is, it is working, just not in the visible stage. Every delay is part of the design. When you depend too much on timing, you lose faith during silence. But when you trust the process, even the silence becomes sacred. In daily life, this happens all the time. You apply for a promotion and someone else gets it first. You work hard for years and the results don't show up when you expect them to. You start to think life is unfair, that maybe your time will never come. But life doesn't work on your calendar, it works on your character. Frustration teaches you that you're not being denied. You're being developed, you're not late. You're being prepared. The reason things take time is because the process is building the foundation for something that can last. Quick success might satisfy you for a moment, but slow growth strengthens you for a lifetime. Look at the people who made it big. They weren't always where they are now. They had to go through seasons of delay, rejection, and frustration. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company before he came back and built something legendary. Oprah was told she wasn't fit for television. Colonel Sanders' recipe was rejected over 1,000 times before anyone said yes. What kept them going wasn't perfect timing. It was commitment to the process. They didn't rush life. They trusted it. They understood that delay is not denial, it's design. Frustration exposes how much you try to control life instead of cooperating with it. When you're too focused on timing, you forget that every process has a rhythm. Even nature has timing. The sun rises and sets, tides come and go, seasons change, and each one serves a purpose. If summer never ended, the soil would burn out. If winter lasted forever, the earth would freeze. Frustration teaches you to respect the rhythm of your life. Sometimes the season you're in is not about shining, it's about strengthening. You might not see fruit yet, but roots are growing deeper. When you depend on timing, you compare your journey to others. You start looking at who got there first, who succeeded faster, who is living the dream you wanted. Comparison feeds frustration. But the process reminds you that no two journeys are the same. The caterpillar and the butterfly have the same destiny, but different stages. You can't compare your cocoon to someone else's flight. Everyone has their appointed time, and if you rush yours, you'll miss the beauty of what's being built in you. In everyday struggles, the process can feel like punishment. You might feel forgotten, overlooked, or stuck. But every delay is doing something important. It's teaching you patience, humility, endurance, and emotional balance. If success comes before you're mature enough to handle it, that same success will destroy you. The process protects you from premature elevation. It gives you the strength to sustain what you prayed for. Frustration becomes a signal. It's showing you that your faith is in time, not in transformation. Once you shift that, peace replaces panic. Picture a sculptor working on marble. From the outside, it looks messy. Dust everywhere, pieces falling, hours passing. But he's not in a hurry because he sees the masterpiece within the stone. That's what life does to you. Frustration comes when you can't see what's being shaped, when all you notice are the cracks and the waiting. But the sculptor isn't worried about time. He's focused on precision. And when the work is done, it's perfect. Many people sabotage their destiny because they couldn't wait. They quit right before things were about to turn around. They walked away when all they needed was a little more patience. Frustration blinded them to the progress happening behind the scenes. The process was working, but they didn't trust it long enough to see the results. Frustration is a test of your trust. It asks, do you believe in what you started even when you don't see signs of success? The process might be slow, but it's sure. Timing might fail you, but the process never will. When you learn to fall in love with the process, time loses its power over you. You stop rushing, you stop comparing, and you start growing. Frustration then becomes a reminder, not that things are going wrong, but that something inside you still believes it should have happened by now. And that belief, when redirected through patience, becomes strength. Every delay has a design. Don't rush what's meant to grow. Life has a strange way of slowing you down right when you want to speed up. You plan everything. You set deadlines. You imagine how it's supposed to unfold. And then suddenly nothing goes according to plan. Your efforts seem invisible. Your progress feels frozen. And you begin to wonder if life is ignoring you. But what if the delay isn't a denial? What if it's the universe's way of saying, I'm still preparing something for you? Every delay has a design. Behind the silence, behind the waiting, behind the stillness, something is being aligned for your good. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't see anything for days or even weeks. But beneath the surface, roots are stretching, soil is settling, life is organizing itself. If you dig it up too early to check, you destroy the process. Many people do this with their dreams. They give up too soon because they can't see what's happening underground. Growth is silent before it becomes visible. Delay is not a pause in your destiny, it's preparation. You see, the greatest oak tree was once a seed that refused to rush its growth. It endured rain, storms, and seasons of nothingness, but deep beneath the ground, it was forming the strength to stand tall for centuries. In the same way, your waiting season is not wasted. It's where your roots develop. Every delay you face is secretly building something inside you: wisdom, patience, resilience, maturity. If life gave you everything too soon, it would destroy you because you wouldn't have the character to sustain it. Think about a young athlete who wants to be the best. He dreams of fame, success, and victory. But before he ever wins a championship, he must train for years in silence. He wakes up before dawn, repeats the same drills, makes sacrifices no one sees. That's the design of delay. It's shaping his strength, discipline, and focus. If he rushed the process, if he skipped the training, he might step into the spotlight unprepared and fall apart under the pressure. Delay is protection in disguise. In daily life, delay often feels like punishment. You apply for a job and never get a call back. You start a business and it grows slower than you expected. You pray for change, but the situation remains the same. Frustration creeps in and you begin to doubt the journey. But remember this, the things that take time to grow are always the ones that last. Grass grows fast but gets cut easily. Trees take years but stand for generations. Maybe what you're building isn't supposed to be quick. It's supposed to be strong. Look at people who achieved greatness. They all faced seasons of delay. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison before leading his nation. If he had rushed freedom, he might not have been ready to handle leadership with the grace and wisdom he later showed. The delay refined him, not defined him. It shaped his patience and purified his purpose. So when you're in your own waiting season, understand that it's doing the same for you. It's refining your heart, not rejecting your destiny. There's a rhythm to everything. The moon doesn't rush to shine, the sun doesn't hurry to rise, and the tide doesn't come before its time. When you understand that everything beautiful unfolds according to its design, you stop forcing things. Rushing destroys what patience could have perfected. People who rush relationships end up with heartbreaks. People who rush success end up with burnout. And people who rush destiny end up with disappointment. Growth that's forced will always fail, but growth that's allowed will always flourish. Sometimes life delays you to prepare the environment, not just you. Maybe the place you're meant to shine isn't ready yet. Maybe the people who will help you grow haven't arrived yet. Maybe the opportunity you want still needs to be aligned with your timing. Delay is not always about you being slow. It's about everything else catching up to your purpose. While you're frustrated that it's not happening, life is quietly setting the stage behind the curtain. In your daily routine, there are countless examples. Maybe you were stuck in traffic and got angry, but that delay saved you from an unseen accident ahead. Maybe you didn't get that apartment, only to find a better one later. Maybe you didn't get that job, but the next one offered you double. Sometimes the delay is protection, not punishment. The design of delay is often invisible until hindsight reveals its beauty. Every delay carries a message. Wait until it's ready. When a fruit ripens too early, it's bitter. When it ripens on time, it's sweet. Your dream is the same way. If you rush to taste it before it's ready, it might leave you unfulfilled. But if you let it mature through time, effort and patience, it will satisfy you deeply. Don't let impatience rob you of what patience is preparing for you. There's something powerful about trusting the design of delay. It teaches you to rest while you work, to believe while you wait, to build quietly while others are running loudly. It teaches you to stop asking, why isn't it happening yet? And start asking, what is this season trying to teach me? Because delay always has a lesson. It builds your emotional muscles, strengthens your faith, and shapes your perspective. Every delay has a design. When you can't see progress, it doesn't mean there isn't any. The roots are growing, the pieces are aligning, and the process is still working even when you feel stuck. Rushing only leads to regret, but patience builds power. Every flower blooms at a different pace, but none of them lose their beauty because they took their time. So keep watering your dream, keep showing up, keep believing. What's meant to grow will grow, just not before its season. Frustration is a sign that you are close to transformation. It is the emotional pressure that builds right before a breakthrough. It is the tension that tells you something inside you is evolving, stretching, fighting to grow beyond its current limits. Frustration doesn't show up when you are lost. It shows up when you are on the edge of something new. Most people misunderstand it. They think frustration means failure, but in reality, it's the sound of your old self trying to resist change while your new self is trying to emerge. It's not a wall, it's a doorway. And the closer you get to that doorway, the more resistance you feel. Think about how it feels when you are learning something new, maybe a skill, a language, or even a new habit. In the beginning, everything feels uncomfortable, confusing, slow. You make mistakes, you doubt yourself, you get irritated. That's frustration talking. But what's really happening beneath the surface is rewiring. Adjustment, transformation. Your brain is creating new connections. Your character is being strengthened. Your patience is being tested. Frustration is the evidence that change is in motion. If you weren't transforming, you wouldn't feel it. Look at nature for a moment. When a seed begins to sprout, it doesn't break the ground easily. The soil resists, the seed pushes. There's pressure, friction, struggle. But that tension is not a sign of death. It's a sign of life. The seed must crack before the tree can rise. That's what frustration is in human life, the cracking of what you were, so what you can become may grow. You feel like you're breaking apart, but in truth, you're breaking open. Many people quit right when frustration peaks. They walk away when things get hardest, not realizing that the moment of greatest frustration is often the final test before the transformation appears. Have you ever noticed that storms are most violent just before they end? Life is the same way. When frustration grows intense, when nothing seems to work, when every part of you wants to give up, that's the sign that you are closest to shifting into the next version of yourself. Frustration is like the pain of labor. It hurts not because something is wrong, but because something new is being born. In daily life, this happens more than you think. You're working hard at your dream, putting in the hours, staying up late, making sacrifices, but the results don't seem to show. You get frustrated. You start questioning everything, your path, your purpose, even your talent. But frustration is not punishment, it's the friction of growth. Your efforts are not wasted. They're compounding behind the scenes. The delay, the resistance, the confusion, they are not obstacles. They are preparation. Every bit of frustration you feel is shaping the strength you'll need to handle the success that's coming. Consider a butterfly. Before it can fly, it must wrestle its way out of the cocoon. Scientists once tried to help a butterfly by cutting the cocoon open early. The butterfly came out easily, but its wings were weak, unable to fly. The struggle, the frustration of pushing against the cocoon was what strengthened its wings. The very thing that looked like suffering was actually the process of transformation. The same happens with you. Frustration is your cocoon. It's the stage where your wings are being built. People often pray for growth, but forget that growth demands pressure. Diamonds are made under pressure, gold is refined in fire, and muscles are built through resistance. Frustration is the emotional version of that process. It's the fire that burns away what's no longer needed. It teaches you discipline when you want to quit, patience when you want to rush, and wisdom when you want to react. Every great transformation in your life will come with a season of deep frustration. Because that's when the old version of you starts dying and the new version starts breathing. When you hit that wall of frustration, remember this, the wall isn't there to block you. It's there to see how badly you want what's on the other side. Frustration filters the committed from the casual. Anyone can dream, but only those who endure frustration can transform. When you stay consistent through confusion, when you choose peace over panic, when you keep working even when it feels pointless, that's when the universe starts to move things in your favor. Frustration is not a signal to stop. It's a signal to press harder. In relationships, careers, goals, or personal growth, frustration is a natural indicator of nearing change. When you're frustrated in a relationship, it might mean you're learning to communicate at a deeper level. When you're frustrated at work, it might mean you've outgrown your current environment and are being pushed toward leadership or independence. When you're frustrated with yourself, it means you've seen the gap between who you are and who you could be. And that awareness is the first step of transformation. Frustration awakens your hunger for more. It makes you restless. It forces you to move. It ignites your potential. Every person who has ever reinvented themselves can point to a moment of deep frustration that became the turning point. It's when they were tired of repeating the same patterns, tired of feeling stuck, tired of settling. That frustration lit a fire that changed everything. Transformation doesn't begin with happiness. It begins with frustration. It begins with a refusal to stay the same. That's why frustration is powerful. It's not a weakness. It's the starting point of reinvention. When you start to see frustration not as your enemy, but as your indicator, everything changes. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Because every time frustration rises, it's announcing that something inside you is ready to evolve. Frustration doesn't visit the complacent, it only visits the hungry. It comes to those who are capable of more, ready for more, destined for more. Frustration is not the end of your story. It's the tension before your transformation unfolds. Maturity begins when you stop reacting to frustration and start learning from it. Most people never reach this stage because frustration feels like an enemy, an intruder, something to resist or escape. When things don't go their way, they lash out, complain, or give up. They let frustration control their actions, dictate their mood, and shape their choices. But true maturity is different. It is the moment you realize that frustration is not here to punish you, but to teach you. It is a mirror reflecting where you are weak, where you are impatient, and where you need growth. The person who reacts to frustration is still a child in the room of life. The person who learns from it has begun to step into adulthood, into wisdom, into control. Think about daily life. Maybe you are stuck in traffic, late for an important meeting, and your first instinct is anger. You honk, you complain, you curse the situation. The child inside you reacts, but the mature person asks, what can I learn from this? Maybe the lesson is patience, maybe the lesson is time management, maybe the lesson is self-control. Instead of wasting energy on frustration, they channel it into reflection and strategy. Every frustrating moment becomes a classroom for emotional intelligence. Maturity transforms obstacles into teachers and delays into lessons. Look at people in leadership positions. The ones we admire didn't reach their level by reacting impulsively to every setback. They were consistent in their response to frustration. When a project failed, when a deal fell through, when a person betrayed them, they didn't scream or quit. They observed, analyzed, and adjusted. They asked themselves, what is this teaching me? Their growth came not from avoiding frustration, but from facing it with curiosity and calm. That's maturity, seeing frustration not as a stop sign, but as a guidepost toward improvement. Consider a student struggling with a difficult subject. The instinctive reaction is to give up or blame the teacher. Frustration screams, this is too hard, and most people would quit. But the mature student takes a different approach. They study harder, they ask questions, they seek help, they learn strategies to overcome the obstacle. Frustration becomes the spark for deeper learning. The moment they stop reacting with anger or despair and start reacting with persistence and curiosity, they cross into maturity. Frustration has transformed from an enemy into a coach. Frustration is often a reflection of expectation colliding with reality. When your expectations are too rigid, when your plans are too tight, or when your patience is too short, frustration rises. Maturity begins the moment you recognize this. You stop blaming external circumstances and start examining yourself. What can I control? What can I change? What can I learn? Instead of reacting with negativity, you react with intention. The mature mind sees the lesson hidden inside the irritation. It understands that life is not about having everything go smoothly, but about navigating difficulty without losing composure. In relationships, this principle is crucial. Disagreements, misunderstandings, and disappointments are inevitable. The immature person reacts with anger, resentment, or withdrawal. The mature person listens, reflects, and communicates. They understand that frustration in relationships is often a signal that there is a gap in understanding, patience, or effort. When you learn from it rather than react to it, your relationships strengthen. Frustration becomes a mirror revealing areas where love, empathy, or communication need growth. Maturity turns tension into connection, conflict into clarity, and irritation into insight. Work life is another arena where this principle shines. A difficult boss, a project that fails, a colleague who undermines you. These situations can provoke intense frustration. A reactive person will lash out, complain, or sabotage their own progress. A mature person pauses, reflects, and asks, what is this situation teaching me about my patience, my strategy, or my resilience? Frustration becomes a feedback mechanism. Instead of causing chaos, it shapes decisions, refines skills, and strengthens character. Maturity is the ability to convert external turbulence into internal growth. Even in personal goals, frustration serves as a teacher. When progress is slow, when results are delayed, when obstacles keep appearing, the immature mind sees only unfairness and panic. The mature mind sees opportunity. It asks, what am I missing? What can I do differently? What does this frustration reveal about my weaknesses or my blind spots? Maturity doesn't make life easier, it makes you better. It converts resistance into wisdom, impatience into discipline, and annoyance into strategy. Consider the daily routine of someone trying to build a healthy habit. Skipping workouts, resisting diet plans, procrastinating. They encounter frustration repeatedly. The immature reaction is guilt, self-pity, or giving up entirely. The mature reaction is to study the pattern, understand triggers, adjust methods, and keep moving forward. Frustration teaches awareness, accountability, and resilience. Maturity is revealed when you respond to these lessons with learning instead of rebellion. Frustration also reveals your emotional triggers. When something pushes you to react impulsively, it shows where your patience is thin and where your self-control needs work. The mature person uses this insight. Instead of allowing frustration to dictate behavior, they pause, observe, and learn. They understand that every irritation contains a gift, the chance to strengthen their mind, expand their perspective, and refine their behavior. They see life's tests not as punishments, but as invitations to evolve. Maturity begins when you internalize this principle. It begins when frustration no longer controls your actions, moods, or decisions. It begins when you start seeing frustration as a mentor rather than a menace. The mature person recognizes that life will continue to present challenges, delays, and obstacles, but how they respond is what defines their growth. Every frustration becomes a classroom, every setback a lesson, every irritation a guidepost. The more you learn from frustration, the stronger, wiser, and more resilient you become. Every person who has achieved greatness has faced moments of intense frustration, and what separated them from the rest was their response. They paused, reflected, learned, and adjusted. They allowed frustration to teach rather than consume them. Maturity is the bridge between desire and achievement, and frustration is the teacher that guides you across it. When you stop reacting to frustration with negativity and start learning from it, you step into the kind of emotional intelligence, patience, and strength that transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary legacies. And now, as we reach the close of this journey together, I want you to understand that frustration is not your enemy. It is your signpost, your compass pointing to the place where your greatest growth awaits. Life will not bend to your timeline. It will not obey your impatience, and it will certainly not reward entitlement. What it will do is test you, stretch you, and refine you if only you allow it. Remember, the greatest oak tree in the forest was once a seed buried under pressure and darkness. It endured storms, wind, and time, but it became magnificent not because it avoided struggle, but because it embraced the tension, the resistance, and the seasons of waiting. The same is true for your life. Every frustration you encounter, every moment when you feel stuck or overlooked, is a layer being added to your strength, a chapter being written in your story, a force preparing you for impact far beyond what you can see today. Think about Thomas Edison, who faced failure after failure in his pursuit of the electric light. When asked about his thousands of unsuccessful attempts, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." He refused to let frustration define him. Instead, he allowed it to educate him. The very thing that could have broken him became the vehicle for his extraordinary breakthrough. And in your own life, when you encounter doors closing, when plans fall apart, when people doubt you, remember Edison. Your frustration is not the end. It is the sign that you are in the laboratory of greatness, refining, testing, and evolving into a version of yourself that cannot be stopped by circumstance, opinion, or failure. Think also of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years imprisoned. The world saw confinement, hardship, and what looked like injustice. The world might have assumed frustration would destroy him, yet he emerged not bitter but brilliant, not broken but bold. He transformed adversity into wisdom, anger into patience, waiting into leadership. Frustration, if handled with vision and faith, does not imprison you. It prepares you for freedom, equips you for responsibility, and teaches you to govern not just others, but yourself. When you allow frustration to teach instead of tempt, you are building character that no one can take away, experiences that no one can erase, and a destiny that no one can rewrite. In daily life, the moments of irritation, the setbacks, the delays, they are your classrooms. The traffic that makes you late is not punishment. It is teaching patience and self-control. The friend who misunderstands you is not your enemy. It is teaching empathy, communication, and perspective. The job that doesn't acknowledge your efforts is not a rejection. It is a call to resilience, skill, and refinement. Every frustrating encounter is a teacher in disguise, and the students who learn from it are the ones who become legends in their own right. Michael Jordan, widely regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time, was cut from his high school team. Most would have quit. Most would have surrendered to frustration. But Jordan understood that failure, rejection, and frustration are not indicators of incapacity. They are invitations to greatness. He said, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, And that is why I succeed. Every setback was a setup, every moment of irritation a rehearsal for triumph, and every frustration a step closer to his legacy. The same principle applies to you. The pain you feel today is not the measure of your defeat. It is the measure of your potential. It is the pressure shaping you, the resistance refining you, and the delay designing you for something bigger than comfort, bigger than ease, bigger than ordinary. The key is in your perspective. Frustration is only frustrating when you fight it, resist it, or define it as failure. When you reframe it as a teacher, as a motivator, as a guidepost, it becomes the engine that drives your growth. Every time you feel impatient, exhausted, or overwhelmed, remind yourself that discomfort is the birthplace of greatness. If life were easy, everyone would be extraordinary. It is the fire of challenge, the weight of struggle, and the tension of frustration that forges champions, leaders, creators, and visionaries. Do not run from it. Do not ignore it. Do not curse it. Embrace it. Welcome it. Lean into it. It is the sculptor chipping away the excess, the pressure molding your character, the wind lifting your potential higher than you imagined. Remember the words of Walt Disney, who faced repeated failures before creating a world-renowned empire. All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Courage does not mean the absence of frustration. Courage means moving forward despite frustration. Courage means continuing the journey even when the path seems blocked. Courage means trusting that the delay, the setback, the irritation, and the obstacle are not punishments but preparations. When you adopt this mindset, every frustration transforms from a prison into a platform, from a weight into wings, from a barrier into a breakthrough. And consider Maya Angelou, who said, "We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated." Defeat is only permanent when you surrender to frustration. It is temporary when you extract the lesson, adjust the strategy, and keep moving forward. The storms, the irritations, the delays, and the moments of anger are the curriculum of life. They are your instructors, your coaches, your mentors, and your guides. If you study them, if you learn from them, if you apply their wisdom, you will rise higher than you ever imagined, achieve more than you ever hoped, and inspire more than you ever thought possible. Your frustration is not a sign of weakness. It is the signal of potential. Your impatience is not a flaw. It is the precursor to growth. Your obstacles are not punishments. They are setups for preparation. The energy you feel when life resists you is not wasted. It is fuel waiting for ignition. The questions, the challenges, the irritation, the pressure, they are all sacred, shaping you into a person capable of achieving, leading, and transforming beyond ordinary limits. So I leave you with this truth: every frustration, every setback, every irritation, every delay, every obstacle you face is your invitation to greatness. It is the whisper of your potential demanding attention. It is the pressure of your promise testing your patience. It is the friction of your future shaping your present. The most extraordinary people are not those who avoided frustration, but those who harnessed it, learned from it, and allowed it to transform them. Your frustration is not the enemy of your dream. It is the fuel of your destiny. It is the fire that forges your strength, the tension that teaches your patience, the resistance that reveals your resilience, and the pressure that shapes your power. Let frustration be your mentor, your motivator, your teacher, and your guide, and you will rise above circumstances, defy limitations, and step into a life of unimaginable impact and excellence, just as countless legends before you did. Just as countless victories are waiting for you to claim them, and just as the world is ready to see the unstoppable force you are becoming,